Story here. If you look back at your year and a half or 2 years, whenever you showed up here, and looking back in hindsight right now, is there anything you would have done differently, acted differently, pushed harder for maybe a list once you started realizing that he may not be coming back? Is there anything that you've learned throughout the process that could help you moving forward?
Well, I think it's always great in hindsight to look back and say what you would change. At the end of the day, I don't think anything was going to change, right? And again, I'm not going to get into the weeds on a blow by blow of the Mitch situation. I think Mitch is a tremendous player. I said it the day I got here. He's a top player. He's an unbelievable talent. Just look at his statistical, production since he's entered the league. His time with the Leafs, he was a great Leaf. We approached Mitch's camp. Really, even from the time that I got here, about what his plans were. Those were always to be a Leaf. At the appropriate time, excuse me, when we could, we approached them about engaging in a contract discussion. They made it clear that they wanted to wait. As you go through that process, you get if you've been in the business long enough, you have gut feels of how things are going to go. And by no means do I criticize the player. That's the player's right. And then you look at other options, and Mitch negotiated a no move clause, which is fully in his rights. So when we look at opportunities to move on, or opportunities at potential transactions, at the end of the day, Mitch held the cards with those. And again, I'm not going to get into any into the weeds here of those discussions, because I think those are between myself, his representative, and the player, which I always think are, I ask for honest conversation with my players and representatives, and those are held in confidence. But at the end of the day, there wasn't a path to a different outcome, despite looking at different opportunities or potential different scenarios. And so we are where we are. So you always retrospectively look back in anything you do, and how do you do it better? I don't know at the end of the day if there was an option or an opportunity that was going to work, that was going to provide a different outcome.
And I imagine just those basic principles that you just said with the no move apply to Morgan Rielly and whoever has them in your lineup moving forward.
Yeah, any conversations I have will remain confidential. So I appreciate the interest, but I've got nothing to add there.
I gotta try, Brad.
Yeah. Well, you are looking at a situation where Power Play 1 was Mitch was running the point now. Do you expect to see Morgan back running that unit?
Well, we're July 2nd, so Who's
running the Power Play, Brad?
on the wall yet. But listen, those are conversations we have every day, right? Chief's in here, we talk. We're side by each here right now as we look at different options, and every scenario that you look at, you've got it on the wall with what job opportunity are you looking to replace, or what holes do you have, and who's going to do the different jobs. I mean, again, I come back to it is when with Mitch going away, you're not just taking a player and saying, okay, he's going to do Mitch's job. Mm-hmm. And so now you have to look at different opportunities. You got to look at different opportunities for different players. a year ago, we didn't know necessarily if Matthew Nyes was going to be a fit with Austin, and you don't know where there's going to be chemistry. So at the end of the day, what we look at now is how do we use the space that we have, and certainly, offense is an area that's, we've got a guy who's gotten 100 points that's left our team. We think we've replaced a little bit of ability here with Michelli, but we've got to do more. And all the different things that Mitch did, whether it be on the power play, whether it be 5-on-5 in the penalty killing, those are just areas we need to replace. So whether that's certain players in our team taking on more, taking on some different roles, and certainly looking to add to our roster to help fill that in. So probably a long way of answering. I don't know exactly yet what our power play, how that's going to break down. We have certainly some ideas and some options and lots of discussion on it, and we'll see how the days unfold here moving forward as we get closer to camp.
So with Mitch Marner gone, where are you on your DNA? You still looking for a few more molecules?
Yeah, it's surprising how a guy makes a comment. It's apparently. Yeah, and I get it. Again, the whole idea of that comment, we sometimes forget how the context or how the context of the question that was raised, and a lot of it was, when I look back in the 2 years that I've been here. And listen, you get to the end of the season, everybody's emotional, right? You lose in Game 7 of the second round, and it feels like you haven't made the playoffs in 10 years, right? So you have to take a step back. My observation is there's a lot of good things that happened with our team last year. Now, in that particular series, at very critical moments, and as I mentioned, we were in some critical moments. Game 6 was a critical moment. We Game 6 in Ottawa was a critical moment. But I found in the 2 years that I've been here, yeah, we were short some bodies in Game 7 in Boston. We lose 2-1 in overtime, or we lose an overtime game in Game 7. We didn't have good games in Game 5 and Game 7 here. I look at it as it doesn't get talked about, I don't think, but Game 3 was a great opportunity too. We're in overtime to go up 3-0 in that lead, but certainly the way it ends in Game 7, in a critical area, a critical moment, we need to be better. So that's where our DNA, and it's not just airlifting in 20 new players and shooting everybody that's here. That's just, I get the emotional reaction from people. It's how can we be better? How do we improve? How do we improve mentally? How do we improve in those moments that are critical? And certainly, personnel is one, preparation's another, mental toughness is another. So there's a lot that goes into it. And, I know the easy reaction is any player that's signed, it gets stuck to DNA. But just to give a little context of behind the headline of what I was talking about with that answer.
That's great stuff. So we'll help you turn the page to the guys who are here. Like Michelli, excited to see what he can do. Tell us a little bit about your expectations for Nick Waugh, why he was someone you targeted. And then if you could just throw in a comment on Pizzetta, who I absolutely love watching play hockey, that would make me happy as well.
Yeah, well, with Nick, I think Nick is, he may not be the big sexy name, but to me, Nick's a player that helps you win. And if you're trying to be a winning team, you need, you've heard Lou talk about it in years past. It's like building an orchestra. You need everybody in the right chair. And Nick was in a situation in Vegas where, he's playing behind Eichel, Carlson, Hurdle. I mean, those are three pretty good